Hi, everyone. Kate here for another Cozy Things chat. And today I'm really pleased to be joined by Jennifer Brooks. And we are going to be talking about kind of the cozy things she likes, particularly during Victober. I know last year, Jennifer, you had a special banner for Victober, and I love hearing your thoughts, and you upload really interesting content. And I just am looking forward to hearing your list. So, what is the first thing you have on your list?
Well, thank you, Kate, for your kind words. You were, I believe, the first BookTube channel that I ever watched.
Was I
Yes,
really?
yes, your
I'm
Victober
honored.
your Victober videos were some of the first I watched.
Oh, how cool. So it's come full circle now.
It has. So the first cozy thing that I have is actually something that you inspired me to do. I think a couple of Victobers ago, you started keeping a quote journal. And
Oh,
now I do that, and I do it throughout the year, but I started in Victober last year, and it really made the whole experience just a whole lot more fun. It really makes you kind of interrogate what you're reading and what's memorable about it.
that's especially ironic because I did the quote journal the first like 4 days of October, and then I just petered out with my project. So I love that you actually had success with your quote journal project. That's great. And then your second cozy thing. What is your second cozy thing?
My second cozy thing kind of goes hand in hand with the quote journal, and it's just kind of annotating. I find that I'm not really a very over the top annotator. I know a lot of people love to annotate every single book they read, and I don't have the mental capacity to do that all the time. But in Victober, I really, really like to, because I tend to be reading quite a few heavy things and things that I really want to make note of. And so the quote journal and annotation kind of go hand in hand, but it just feels like a really nice, very gentle thing to be doing, to get wrapped up in a blanket, have your tabs, have your pen or your pencil, and just be very cozy with your Victorian lit.
I love it. And your annotation style, do you put kind of notes on the margins? Do you underline? You said you also have tabs. What do you generally like to do when you annotate?
Generally, I like to underline. It's taken me a long time to break myself of feeling like, oh, I'm messing the book up if I write in the margins or even if I underline. So I started out using pencil, but now I'm a little braver. Sometimes I'll use pen, but I do tend to underline, and now I will write in the margins. But tabbing is kind of iffy for me. Sometimes it's just marking a passage that I want to come back to, but sometimes now I like to color code. I know a lot of people
Ooh,
love color coding their tabs. So sometimes I'll do that, and that is very fun. I did that with a Charles Dickens book earlier this year, and it
which
made it more memorable, I think.
and which Dickens book was it?
It was the Pickwick Papers. So
Oh,
his,
nice.
mhm.
Yeah, I think there is something about if you can make reading even more of an extrasensory kind of experience, or sensory experience, then it just makes it all the more memorable. And I with the tabs, I don't really know how to use them. I know Christy Lewis is a queen of tabbing.
She is.
Yeah, she's really good at it. But the underlining, I'm kind of content with. Occasionally, I'll write something in the margins, but I never feel like there's something I absolutely have to leave there in the margins. And the third cozy thing.
So my third cozy thing is just a fall scented candle. I find myself wanting to use candles quite a bit in the fall. So this is a more general kind of cozy thing, but it also really adds to your ambiance, especially when you're just sitting down reading. It's Victober, you want to read for a really long time. You've got a lot to get through. Smelling a nice kind of cozy pumpkin spicy scent is really nice. Are you a candle person, Kate?
I'm very much a candle person, and I don't like occasionally in the spring or summertime. I'll have them, but it is Victober. That is now. I just kind of I can't do Victober without the spicy, warm scented candles. I just can't. And do you have kind of like a go-to specific candle, or you just are adventurous each fall?
I try to be adventurous, but my weakness is anything kind of caramel scented or coffee scented. I really like a food scent. Some people are more nature oriented or floral oriented, but I'm very much into kind of a baking scent.
Yes, if it smells like a baked good, I'm all for it. Yeah. Oh, I haven't ever had a coffee scented candle, but I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, those are particularly addictive.
I bet. And especially because because of heartburn, I can't have coffee, which is very sad. So I think maybe one of the experiences about drinking coffee, though, that's one of the best parts is smelling it. So maybe a coffee scented candle would be a good route to go.
Yes, but maybe that'll help fill the void for you.
It might. And your fourth cozy thing.
My fourth cozy thing is a book. And so this is kind of a recommendation if you've not decided on something for Victober. This goes for a lot of the prompts, actually. But it's Great Expectations by Charles Dickens.
Oh,
I just think that book is perfect. And I think the entire vibe of it is very warm and kind of wholesome, really. Sometimes in a Charles Dickens book, you feel like things are going to go off the rails and you're going to be left crying and it's going to be very, very sad. I think throughout Great Expectations, you feel like things will tie up very nicely. So it feels like a very cozy fairy tale like read in a way, which is unique in Victorian literature to me. But that's my favorite of his. And I think his writing in general also feels kind of warm and enveloping, and you get very absorbed when you're reading Great Expectations.
I absolutely agree. I think enveloping is a perfect word for it. And someone was just messaging me on Instagram saying they were considering reading Great Expectations, but they're like, I'm worried I'll dislike all the characters. And I said, I can confidently say, even if you don't like Pip, because I know some readers struggle with him because he can be really annoying at times, but there are so many other characters that you will definitely love. Like there's no division on that. It's got really wonderful side characters. Um, and I think Pip has a great overall character arc.
He does. I'm somebody who struggles with Pip. So I understand when people say that. And when they say they didn't like him or he's the reason that they didn't like the book, I completely understand it. But people too often think that Great Expectations is really cheesy and that they don't want to read this overly emotional. But that's the charm of it to me.
Yeah. I don't think cheesy would be. Yeah, maybe warm is what I would say. But also then with the what is the name of the Sadist house? That's the name of it. That's really haunted feeling and desolate. And I think it's a really good, Katie from Books and Things has talked about how Dickens, his books kind of have these contrasts between dark and light. And that's one of the things that I think makes Great Expectations so incredibly captivating is that contrast. So I don't think, yeah, I don't think cheesy would apply because I think there's enough kind of grittiness in it to really, I don't know, balance things out.
I completely agree with you.
Yeah, so it's a shorter Dickens, so less intimidating.
It is. It's a good one to start with. That's where I started with Dickens, and I never regretted it. So,
What's funny is I started with Oliver Twist, and I know it is really low down on the ranking for a lot of Dickens fans, but I loved it, and it made me go on to Great Expectations, which definitely surpassed Oliver Twist. But yeah, I'm really glad that's where I started and not because some of his I haven't enjoyed as much. But yeah, Great Expectations is way high up there, just in my favorite Victorian novels. It's a great one and perfect for this time of year. And now I just want to reread it like
I do
immediately.
too. Everyone mentioned it in their Victober announcement videos. It could fit kind of as a sensation novel. It takes place in the city. It's a very popular Victorian novel, and it is difficult to pin down in that way. So if you're somebody who prefers one genre over another, it's actually a very good one to try, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Now, are we at your fifth cozy thing?
We are.
Okay. What is
So
your fifth?
my fifth cozy thing has to do with baking. I love to bake year round, but this is definitely the best time of the year to bake. And during Victober, I find myself baking pumpkin muffins quite a bit.
Ooh.
Pumpkin chocolate chip muffins. There's something about it that's it's also very spicy, kind of a warm.
Yes, I actually just made pumpkin chocolate chip muffins this week because of the boys' first day of school. I wanted to make muffins, and I was gonna go with, blueberry kind of standard, and then I thought, it's fall. I'm gonna make pumpkin chocolate chip.
Right. I did too. It's already started.
Yes. Yeah, we have to jump on these autumnal baking opportunities while we're in the season, even if it's still hot out. I just like to pretend that it's cooler out than it is.
Right. That's part of it. If you're going to wait for the weather to get cooler in certain areas, you'll be waiting till after Christmas to start enjoying any of it.
Yes.
So it's time to get started. But that I really do love baking. That's a nice cozy activity, especially if you're listening to an audiobook or something like that. It's nice to occupy your hands if you're listening to something. To me, I struggle with focusing on audiobooks. So that's one of my favorite activities to do.
Yeah, I definitely get restless if I'm just sitting and listening. Unless I'm like very tired and I just like sit and close my eyes and listen. I like to have something to do. And it feels very kind of Victorian aesthetic, because can't you just picture like the kitchen maids walking around like doing their baking, and maybe a footman who doesn't have anything to do right now reading aloud from like a periodical in a newspaper. So yes, it feels very in keeping with it.
It does. That's a really good point. That makes it even better.
And so yes, that goes with the bonus challenge this year of reading aloud or listening to an audiobook. Yeah, and I think some Victorian literature is just best experienced listening to it. And then your sixth cozy thing.
My sixth cozy thing is just pumpkins. Real pumpkins, ceramic pumpkins, plastic pumpkins. All pumpkins bring me joy. I saw something the other day and it was probably not cute. It probably really wasn't. But because it was a pumpkin, I said, I kind of like that. So it's just nice to have pumpkins surrounding you this time of year.
I love a good pumpkin, and they now they call them fairy tale pumpkins. And so they're a lot kind of like flatter and wide around. And I love the way that those look. And now they sell like white pumpkins and green pumpkins. And last year at the pumpkin patch we were at, they sold these giant pumpkins. It was like an $80 pumpkin, but it was the hugest pumpkin I had ever seen. And I was thinking, how great would that be if you wanted to make like a Harry Potter display, and you could have Hagrid's pumpkin patch and these giant pumpkins. Yeah. Yeah, they make great decorations. You can paint them, you can carve them. They're great.
They are great. And those kind of fairy tale ones, I see people make into the carriage from Cinderella all the time. Yes. They're really beautiful. Pumpkins have kind of moved beyond the jack-o'-lanterns that we had as children. Now they can be very, very elegant.
They can. I don't know how some people carve them the way that they do, because Martha Stewart will have these kind of like stenciled pumpkins where you just take off the is it called the peel? I don't know, the skin. And so it glows through that, through the flesh, and it looks really cool, but I don't know how people manage to make these elaborate designs on them. It just looks really complicated.
That would take a really steady hand. That
Yes.
would be scary to do.
Yes. And then your seventh cozy thing.
My seventh cozy thing might not be something that everyone considers cozy, but Victober kind of coincides with the Halloween season. And I realize Halloween's not for everyone, but I really, really love it. I love slightly spooky things. I don't love
Mhm.
scary things. And so for me, I'm kind of leaning towards Halloween movies, but specifically a movie I watch year round that I guess can be kind of scary, but it's The Mummy. The Mummy is a very, very cozy movie to me because I guess I've seen it so many times. So there's just a real element of knowing where it's going, which I think is kind of comforting in a way. You don't have to be scared or anything. You know when the jumps are coming. You know when the creepy things are going to happen. But it's just sweet, a sweet movie to say for something that's kind of a thriller, but it is very sweet.
It's like everything is conspiring to remind me of this movie. I have never seen The Mummy. And I know. And now with dark academia being a thing, a lot of people are posting about, is the character's name Evie?
Yes.
They're posting about her costumes, which just look amazing. And this movie is beckoning to me. And so I am making it happen this autumn. I will be watching The Mummy for the first time. And yeah, I think I have my scary threshold. And that's why like I love Victorian ghost stories because they're that's my threshold there. And I think The Mummy is totally within my comfort zone. Some suspense, some thrills, and a really glamorous setting. Yeah, it's beckoning to me.
Oh, Kate, I hope that you love it. I can't believe you've never seen it.
I know. I think it was probably a little bit too scandalous. My parents thought it was too scandalous when it first came out. I don't know how old I would have been, but and then I just kind of missed the bus. I don't know why. And then what is your opinion on The Mummy Returns? Because I was thinking of watching that one too. Is it good?
It is. I don't know how popular this opinion is, but I love The Mummy Returns almost as much as I love the original one. I
Ooh,
think it's a very, very good follow up. So,
okay.
yes, definitely watch both of them. I think you'll love it. I think it'll
I'm
appeal to you.
excited. Yeah, yeah. And there is even something about a historical setting for an action-packed movie just draws me in. I think because my issue with more modern kind of action-packed movies is I feel you miss out on the characterization. But for some reason, when people do a period drama, the characterization is just automatically the levels are higher of characterization.
And it's true. I have to agree because I think that's why I've watched The Mummy so many, many times over the years. And this year in particular, for some odd reason, 2021 has been the year of rewatching The Mummy. But the characters are characters that you get very, very attached to. And they're well rounded. And there's something very Indiana Jones about it. There's a kind
Mm.
of an adventure aspect, there's a romance aspect. I think you'll just love it, Kate.
Oh,
I hope
good.
that's
And you know
the
what?
sign.
I'm also realizing too, like the Amelia Peabody series. This is a movie you should watch if you're a fan of the Amelia Peabody series.
Yes, especially if you're a fan of the Amelia Peabody series.
Yes. Now, what was interesting is Rachel Maxey on her YouTube channel, she had an Egyptologist watch The Mummy with her. And she did have some things she's like, yeah, this is totally inaccurate, this, but she still liked the movie. And there were some things she's like, oh, this is really cool. You know, they included this fact and left that in there.
I wondered if she would tear it to pieces. It's it's interesting. So the costumes alone are worth watching
Oh,
it for.
yes. Okay. It's happening. It's 100% confirmed. I'm watching it this autumn. All right. We move on to the seventh cozy thing on your list.
All right. It's going to the farmer's market. So
Ooh.
I think I go to the farmer's market only twice a year. I know a lot of people go all the time, and they even kind of grocery shop at their farmer's market. So their farmer's market must be much nicer or more varied than ours, which is more garden specific.
Mhm.
So I'll go in the spring and get flowers, but in October I go and get pumpkins, and I also get mums and pansies and everything like that. But it feels like a very themed activity to the fall because I always pick a specific Saturday to go, and a day is made of it. And so that's one of my favorite cozy things to do in the fall.
That is fun. And it's like, yeah, I just never been a farmer's market person, but I like in theory going to them. And I'm sure there are some nearby. So I should investigate this. Okay, so then are we at the eighth cozy thing?
I think so, eighth or ninth, maybe.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're at the ninth. This is one of my favorite things to do. I like to get set up and do this when I'm reading, when I'm having a nice long reading day during Victober. But I have a bird feeder that is right out the window that I look through in my favorite reading spot. And I love to get it filled up and just have the birds for company while I'm reading. This is a very active time of year for birds, weirdly enough. I guess they're migrating. So they're looking for some food to carry with them. And so no matter what, whenever I look up from reading and I look at the bird feeder, there are so many birds out there.
That is so fun. We don't have a bird feeder, but we have a bird bath, and I have become obsessed with watching them. And we do have, well, we have kind of interesting birds in the springtime because close to me there is this national reserve, and thousands of birds from around the country, wherever they're migrating or going to, stop at this place because there's a lot of water. And so we do get some kind of more, I mean, we got like goldfinches, and I normally don't ever see goldfinches. So I was excited about that, but I love to watch them. Now, my question is, do you ever get sassy squirrels that are trying to eat the bird feed?
Oh, yes. That's those, they're very hard. They're very hard to contend with. No matter what you do, a squirrel can find the way. They can find their way to your bird feeder. So try to rig it up really high where they can't get it. But I think my neighbor has a cat who who often gets out, and I believe she has scared away most of the squirrels, which has been really great. So now all the birds can find their perch.
Yeah, I see, so many bird feeders that advertise as they're squirrel proof, and then just squirrels, they are clever and they are innovative with how they will get to it. But the one thing that I did see, there was a whole spread in Southern Living all about just bird feeders and the different kinds of seed and everything. And there is a kind that you can get that is spicy to squirrels, but not to birds. The birds can't taste the spice. And so the squirrels will leave it alone because they don't like how hot it tastes in their mouth, but the birds don't notice anything different.
That's fascinating. Maybe I'll have to try something like that.
You might, but because it is like a rare product, I assume it's really expensive. I don't remember how expensive it was, but it was intriguing.
Yeah, that does sound intriguing because it happens all the time. All the birds in the neighborhood seem to be at the bird feeder, and you're getting ready like to take a picture. Finally, I'm going to get all the birds together, and then runs up a squirrel up the pole, scaring them all away. I've seen squirrels turn upside down to try to push a feeder over. They're very smart. If you want to work that hard for it, you can have some.
I guess you earned it. And then are we at your last cozy thing?
My last cozy thing is going used book shopping.
Oh,
I feel like in Victober every year, my TBR gets longer and longer, or I regret that I didn't put the 50th book on my TBR because everyone else seems to be reading it and it sounds really great. Everyone's loving it. And so about halfway through the month, I just break down and I go used book shopping, trying to find all of the Victorian classics that I can. And I think classics are very easy to find used, or maybe
Absolutely.
I have a really great kind of thrift store area and used bookstore, but it's really great to find a used classic and one that typically you can tell somebody really, really loved.
Yes, I find that you're so right that there are waves of Victorian novels that kind of go with different Victobers, and sort of pass around. Like I think Katie started Three Men in a Boat. She read that. And then a lot of people were reading it. And then I think I was looking for a similar experience. And so I found Diary of a Nobody. And then I think more people were reading that. But there are every year, then I have like TBR envy. Like, why didn't I think to put that on my TBR? This year, I mean, I feel this way every year, but I feel this year is like the perfect one where I will have no regrets. But then I know the TBRs are going to start going up because we're filming this at the beginning of September. The TBRs are going to start going up and then I'll be like, why? Why didn't I think to put that on?
Right. Every year. Every year. I think last year everyone was rereading Jane Eyre, and I was like, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I reread Jane Eyre? So I know there will be something like that this year.
Yes, yes. That, and what's funny is I remember Taylor from the Babbling Bee. She said she was reading Wuthering Heights last year, and she said I feel like everyone is reading Jane Eyre, and now this year we're reading Wuthering Heights, and she's going to read Jane Eyre. So I know you probably have a lot that you have selected, and I always love seeing your TBRs because the Victober energy is legit in your videos. But also what I love about you, Jennifer, is you're kind of like low key about it too. Like, but now that I've seen your videos long enough, I'm like, she's really excited about this. I can just tell. So if you have kind of the one book you're the most excited to read this Victober, do you have one that comes to mind before the others?
I do. I'm very tentative about this. I'm torn between being the most excited about it and dreading it the most, but I am going to finally finish Dracula. I'm going to finally read Dracula to completion. I have DNF'd it twice. And one time I think I was really enjoying it. So I'm not quite sure why I DNF'd it, but the first time I read it years ago, I remember I just couldn't get on with his writing style at all. But I feel like it's such a big book. It's such a really famous book. And I really love vampires. I just feel like I should really like it. So I'm excited, but I know since I've DNF'd it before, maybe it's not going to go quite so well.
Yeah, it is. I mean, but it's got the Victober aesthetic in spades. It is such an iconic book. So maybe third time will be the charm. Do you know what? I had to try 3 times with The Woman in White.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
And that's one of my favorites.
That's one that whenever I think about that one, I'm like, I need to reread it immediately. But I have other ones. I'm already treating myself to 2 rereads during Victober. And I was like, I need to restrain myself and not just, I mean, but I have thought about doing a Victober of rereads because last Victober, I got stuck with so many 3-star reads and DNFs. And it could be fun, maybe like the 10th Victober or something, to do a Victober of rereads. Because I've just found rereading to be some of the most rewarding reading that I do. Maybe then I could read with you Romola.
Yes, Romola is another one that has completely eluded me. And it's tentatively on my TBR this year, I think for the 3rd year in a row.
And have you,
this is the year.
It could be. And have you started it before?
I have, and it was very, very dense.
It is, I can't, like, it's not, what do I want to say? I feel like it's like a Victober plus kind of kind of novel, just like The Egoist by George Meredith. which Katie from Books and Things always talks about. And I'm like, one day, one day. But I think the chapters that had Romola or Tito, the main characters, I was enraptured, and it was challenging, but I found I was just so, what do I want to say, wrapped up in the storyline that I didn't mind putting forth the effort. But the Savonarola, very heavy church history chapters were a lot. They were they were really a lot. So I think, though, have you read other George Eliot books and liked them?
I've read Middlemarch, and I won't say it was the easiest thing that I ever read, but I enjoyed it. Kind of. At the
Maybe.
end, I was glad I read it, but I've always
Mhm,
felt that's one that I need to reread to truly appreciate. I think the
mhm.
first time I was just getting my footing with her writing, but
Yes.
you've talked about this before. She's one that takes you some time to fall in love with.
Yes. And I think maybe you could have kind of an interlude novel between Middlemarch and Romola. Maybe you could do either like The Mill on the Floss or Daniel Deronda or Adam Bede. Because I don't think I would have necessarily enjoyed Romola as much if I had just jumped like straight from Middlemarch to Romola. But I think, to me, she's kind of, I feel like some people, their George, excuse me, their George Eliot is Charlotte Bronte, because like the Villette is lost, lost on me, utterly lost. I do not get it. And I know some people, they talk about it and they love it so much. And I'm like, did we read the same book? Um, and so I just didn't get any reward out of Villette. But Romola was really, it was a labor of love, but I did, now it still sticks with me really vividly. So it felt like it was worth it, but you're absolutely right. Like it's intense.
And that's the hard thing about Victober is that on the one hand, I want to read all of these really challenging, long books because I feel like it's the perfect time to tackle them. But at the same time, you think this is a readathon and you got 25 books on your TBR. Sane people maybe have only five, but I always have at least 25 going.
Oh, I know. And I should learn from my mistakes and put less. But this year I'm justifying it because genuinely I have picked a lot of shorter books. And so last year I think I had like 4 tomes. And this year I think I only have 2 tomes. And so that seems more doable. But I know Kate from the novel Nomad, she does a like first priority TBR, second priority, and even third priority. And so you get to feel pretty accomplished if you like knock out the whole first priority. Um, and then that seems like a good system, but it's just, it's hard. And even, this year I have a list of books. Like I basically made like a post Victober TBR because I really want to complete reading all of George Eliot's novels. And so I have Felix Holt left. And I'm like, you know what? I can't add that also to Victober. So I'm just comforting myself and saying, I'll read it in November.
I know. That's the deep, dark black hole of it because I like the idea of doing a tiered system. That does sound really nice to know that you kind of automatically can feel accomplished, but
Yes,
everything feels like it should be on the first tier.
I know. Well, okay, this is an idea. What if you like put a poll out and had people vote for, out of, I don't know, 4 or 5 books, what should be the first book I read for Victober? And then maybe the poll results would help your like gut feeling about what the first book you actually read should be. Sometimes having other people choose makes you be like, no, actually, I don't want that one.
That's true. That's a good idea, Kate.
Yeah.
I'm going to steal that. I think I'll have to do that.
Now, for those of you who hadn't yet seen Jennifer Brooks' channel, she reads a really wide range of classics too. So this is why it's such a challenge for Jennifer, because she just is such a passionate reader and interested in a lot of really different cool eras. You love, so let's see, Victorian era, and then the Romantics, which are the Romantics 17th century or 18th century? What are they?
They're kind of 18th century, maybe we can say Regency,
Okay.
maybe
Okay.
around Jane Austen time period.
Okay. And then farther back, what else? I know there's more areas too that you're passionate about.
I do read a lot of medieval classics, and I really like them. Elizabethan type things, which are more challenging. They take up so much time. That's why you don't read them quite as often as you would like, or I don't anyway. But I can even sometimes get into an ancient classic. So I really do. I just love classics across many eras, and I really love poetry. So this year, one of my goals with Victober is to dip my toes into Victorian poetry, which I don't think I've done before.
Yay. Oh, that is exciting. Now I got a few years back, I was like, oh, for Victober, I struggle with poetry, so I should do a narrative poem. And so I got The Ring in the Book by Robert Browning. And then I opened it up and I was like, oh, okay, no, the language is not Victorian, but you also own this book and you're hoping to read it at some point, right?
Yeah,
Because it is like, it's very juicy. It's based on a murder trial.
that's what it sounds like. It sounds like it's going to be a very thriller mystery-ish,
Yes,
but it,
that does sound cool.
it's tentatively on my Victober TBR, but I kind of feel like it's going to take far longer than a month for me to read it.
Yes. I don't know. Maybe we should have like a mega low key buddy read of it.
That would help me, Kate.
And
We
like,
probably
I don't know how many books are in it. Are there maybe like 8 books, maybe like 3 books, or even 2 books a month or something? And what was I going to say? I totally lost my train of thought. But it makes me laugh because Elizabeth Gaskell in one of her letters was talking about Robert and Emily Browning. And she did not like Robert Browning because she was talking to him and he fell asleep while she was talking to him.
I wouldn't like him either.
I wouldn't like him either. Yeah. Oh, I did order, and I don't have time for it this October, so it will be waiting for me. This is what I do. I like buy. I'm so panicky about running out of Victorian literature to read that I always buy more than I can read in Victober. My birthday money always goes towards Victober books because my birthday is in August. But I got the love letters of Elizabeth Barrett Browning and Robert Browning. So that will be fun to dip into at some point.
Oh, that would be.
Yeah. Now, a fun idea that one of my patrons had was to read the same poem every day in Victober.
I like that.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe The Lady of Shalott. I would just read it every single day. And the first day, read it physically. The second day, listen to it, and maybe just alternate each day. I think that would be a really cool way to just grapple with a poem. I feel as novel readers, sometimes we're not equipped as well to read poetry because I feel like a poem says, look, you need to sit with me for a while and you need to ponder me and take your time with me. And I loved the idea of just because how much will it require? Reading The Lady of Shalott is maybe 15 minutes a day. That's really not a lot of time.
Right. And poetry, I think, begs to be read aloud. So this is a really great one for that challenge.
Yes. Yes.
And then we might become one of those people who just can quote poetry in conversation. Wouldn't that be fancy?
Well, I love, so you've heard me talk about Elizabeth Goudge.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So in one of her books called Island Magic, this family lives on a French island off the coast of France. And one of the daughters, she's very Anne Shirley. And so she loves to feel things very deeply and considers herself a romantic. And she reads some Robert Browning poetry. And it was very, very spiritual and kind of pretty pious and about, living your life the best way that you can. And so this daughter reads it and then takes it upon herself to be the best version of herself that she can be. And so she decides to help her mom out in the morning. She'll wake up the other kids for school, but she wakes them up quoting this lofty Robert Browning poetry. And I love, she's being like very like lofty. And one of her sisters says, "Oh, do shut up." Yeah, I do. I love Christina Rossetti's poems. And I am trying each Victober to like get to know another Victorian poet. Now, this is so uncanny. What happened last Victober, I was going to read the like Pocket Poets edition of Gerard Manley Hopkins' poetry. I brought it down on October 1st and then lost it, could not find it. We were staying at my parents' house. And I knew it was somewhere on the first floor, and it was so sweet. My dad like even looked through his library, and he's like, he had the exact same copy, but he saw his name and he's like, no, this one's mine. I'm sorry, I don't know where yours is. And then what's so silly is I could have just borrowed his, but I was like, I have to find my copy. And I then, a week goes by and I say, I'm going to find it on October 31st. I just know I am. And I am not joking when I found it on October 31st.
Wow. Wasn't meant to be.
It wasn't.
It's not a Victober 2020.
Yes. No, it was just the theme of 2020, just keeping with that. Well, thank you so much for doing this discussion with me, telling me about your cozy things and chatting kind of the agonizing over Victober TBRs that we do.
Which in and of itself could be a cozy thing.
Which, what's funny is we talk about it like it's this big issue, but it's really fun to spend a lot of time fine-tuning our TBRs.
It is.
Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll be back with another video soon.